On the edge of Europe lies a land of austere beauty, Scotland. Remote and steeped in legend, a land of castles, kilts and bagpipes, of whisky and a mysterious monster. But only few people know the rich variety of Scottish nature and wildlife. Scotland, in the far north of Great Britain, is a rugged, windy place. The region, with its 500 islands off the Atlantic coast, has always made heavy demands on the inhabitants. Raw and lonely, the beauty of the Highlands attracts countless visitors each year. Late winter. Gale after gale pushes in from the Atlantic. Weeks of privation for the red deer. At the moment, the frost has the Highlands in its grip. To survive here, you have to adapt. Feathered claws and nostrils help the grouse to overcome the winter. The mountain hare's small ears reduce heat loss. Herds of deer roam the bare, windswept ridges in search of food. The lower slopes are now increasingly free of snow. On their farms, the crofters are preparing for the advent of spring. Alistair Sutherland is a textbook crofter, right down to the tweed jacket and weather-beaten shoes, and his trademark deer stalker hat.
Stop. Back a bit. Go back now.
He's never been away from Scotland, and he never will. His heart is here, in the rugged Highlands, with his animals.
The nature in the Highland is quite simple because it's left to its own devices. You can see it from an eagle to a fox to a stag. You can see everything now. The Highlands is the most peaceful place you can come to, and you can go into any house, have a cup of tea, and have a blether, and you could go down the road to another 100 yards and go into the next house. You get the same reception. It makes no difference.
Day by day, spring moves up the mountainsides. Finally, the might of winter is broken. Unyielding ice is transformed into glittering drops of water, and the Highlands are suddenly full of the sight and sound of waterfalls. While black grouse provide the background music. The cocks have turned out in their finery to perform their dances on the same mating grounds as every year. According to an old saga, a grouse cock went to a farmyard to learn to sing. Some meat was cooking and turning to and fro in the boiling pot. The cock liked the noise of the revolving meat so much that it imitated it and twisted back and forth, greatly impressing the females. If dancing doesn't do it, then mock fights will demonstrate strength and superiority. Things soon get serious and feathers fly. A close eye is kept on the winner, while the loser retires to lick his wounds. The Highlands are a man-made paradise. Over the centuries, the trees originally covering these magnificent mountains were cut down. Now only tiny pockets of natural forest remain. More than 200 years ago, the Caper Cayleys ceased to be forest dwellers and were not reintroduced into the wild until much later. These shy birds live under strict protection in remote, near-natural forests. The population has since recovered to around 1,000 birds. They had originally adapted well to their habitat of sparse, conifer-rich, stepped woods. Ironically, this successful assimilation turned out to be too inflexible for the birds to live in any other surroundings. Caper Cayleys are only to be seen during the mating season. As their hormone levels go through the roof, the cocks let themselves go and become extremely aggressive. Spring in the Highlands is short, and things happen fast. A pair of ospreys. The birds are enjoying something of a comeback. 100 years ago, they were almost extinct in Great Britain. Now there are 150 breeding pairs in Scotland. The countless streams are still full of crystal clear, icy meltwater. Dark brown has given way to lush green. The lambs arrive early in the year. The sheep belong to an age-old strain of domestic animals that long ago adapted to the harsh conditions of life in the Highlands. After the long winter, Alistair is enjoying working in the fresh air again.
It's a nice time of the year. It's the time when everything's born and you can get lambs and you get calves. And it's been very comforting to look at what's coming in front of you.
Come by.
I love the animals. There's no doubt about it. The animals are very good to work with. Everything that's in it is good. It all ties in together. Your day can change to 2 or 3 different jobs in one day.
The farmers can't wait to see how many lambs he'll have to mark with his die stamp. The summer pasture is on the opposite side of the Kyle, a kilometre-long, shallow inlet that changes drastically according to the tide. Time to go. The lambs will only be able to reach the other side when the Kyle is at its lowest point. This calls for teamwork between the shepherd and his border collies. By the time the last sheep is across, the Kyle is already filling again, but the effort is worthwhile. For the sheep, the reward is juicy green grass, and for the crofter, a breathtaking sunset. Over 10,000 kilometres of coastline, much of it free of humans. Scotland's inland waters are mysterious, sometimes literally unfathomable, the stuff of myth and legend. Might these be pictures of the famous Loch Ness monster? Footage of Nessie? The strange creature turns out to be an otter. These animals are usually at home in freshwater, but in Scotland they've taken to living in the sea. They're protected against the cold by their extremely dense fur. 50,000 hairs per square centimetre. The Atlantic has food in abundance, which is just as well, as otters are bundles of energy. After a quick break, it's back into the water. The craggy cliffs are covered in a thick carpet of marsh daisies, bunched together to get some shelter from the ever-active wind. The perfect nesting place for oyster catchers. A good view of the sea, yet at the same time well camouflaged. Full steam ahead. Every day that weather conditions allow, lobster fisherman Callum McKinnon is in his boat off the coast of Skye.
My relation with the sea is I've always just enjoyed the sea, and anything I've done is always in the sea, and if I don't see the sea, it's not me. Since I was a young kid, I was always down with putting traps in the sea, lobster pots in the water, and always messing about on the shore. And then I thought, well, as I grew older, I always wanted to be a fisherman. There's been hard times and good times, but no, I'm still quite happy doing what I'm doing. Things have changed dramatically over the years because the expense and the restrictions of quotas, and there's quite a few that have just sold their boats and gone away to work and oil-related work. But there's still an element of people that have been established for a while. They'll always be genuine fishermen, and they'll always want to just stick to the one job.
The lobster pots are empty, so what's the attraction for the flocks of seagulls suddenly circling the boat? Callum knows. A few fish for supper, and the rest get thrown back. Actually, Callum wanted to attract a sea eagle that he often finds waiting for him, but he hasn't seen it for days. Time and again, the average seagull's capacity for greed astonishes even an old hand like Callum. Living on and with the sea, Even Callum needs a hand from time to time.
One of my sons says he's on the boat with me, and he's hoping to keep going with the boat. So that'll allow me to take a back step and just work at a more leisurely pace than what I'm doing at the moment.
From the coast back to the mountains. The osprey has become a symbol for successful nature preservation. The fish-rich rivers and lakes of the Highlands offer the raptor's ideal conditions. Beavers, on the other hand, are just beginning their comeback. They too were driven to extinction. In 2009, conservationists reintroduced 3 pairs into the wild. The first offspring are a hopeful sign. In deeper parts of the lake, shy black-throated divers have found a small island to breed on. A real rarity. There are fewer than 200 pairs in the whole of Scotland. From the day it's born, in case of danger, the chick will leave the island and follow its parents. Not always the best decision, because it hasn't yet learned to dive. The osprey was looking for a bigger meal. Its main source of food is fish. Occasionally, it will catch small mammals, birds, reptiles, or amphibians. The prey is not for the adult bird. It has young to feed. Now the upper slopes of the Highlands are also decked out in lush green. The largest animal in Scotland is the red deer. The fawns have nothing to fear. They no longer have natural enemies here. And there's always Mum nearby if they get a bit overexcited. Only the adults have to be on the lookout. Deer numbers are kept high to provide sufficient targets for shooting parties. This is not without complications, particularly for ambitious reforestation projects.
Get in there! Get your stone on one down.
Alistair is helping a friend with the sheep shearing, using traditional skills that go back centuries. Sheep are gentle creatures with a thick skin.
You can work with them, no bother. They're easy animals. The North Country Beavers are very easy.
But when it comes to their wool, they can be very stubborn. Scotland has almost 7 million sheep, which means they outnumber the human population by over 1 million. In the meantime, Alistair has let his problem child out again. The calf was ill for a long time, and now it can at last rejoin the herd.
Their quietness, they're easy to work with. And you can just cut your horn and round you go. They're quite easy to handle and work with. A lot of people doesn't like the horns, but the horns doesn't do any harm. It's a guidance. You can guide them through anything, no bother at all. Once they get confidence in you, they're no bother.
And if you give these animals affection, they come to trust you completely. Highland cattle look a bit like outsized cuddly toys. They are very robust, however, and are outside all year round. Landmark and place of interest in one, the Old Man of Storr on the Isle of Skye. Today, Callum's come to this part of the island to cut some peat, something there's no shortage of in Scotland. The heathland is a result of deforestation and grazing. Peat has been used in Scotland for centuries, amongst other things for around 100 distilleries. After soaking, the barley is laid out in the malting floors, which are peat-fired from below. The malt is steeped in smoke, giving it its unmistakable aroma. Then it is ground and mixed, fermented and distilled, all according to a secret formula, of course. The serenity and dedication with which the Scots distill their national drink seem to be an integral part of the whisky itself. Sunlight in bottles is how George Bernard Shaw described his favourite tipple. Until it fits that description, it's rolled away to mature for 10 or 20 years. But regardless of how long one has to wait, the amber spirit will taste as good as it has done for centuries. the attraction of the far north of Great Britain is its wonderful remoteness, endless space and peace and quiet. On Base Rock, however, you can forget about peace and quiet. And space. Tens of thousands of gannets see to that. The birds form colonies wherever the rocky terrain allows. Scotland is the land of the gannet, with the highest breeding population in the world. A wingspan of almost 2 meters makes them the ultimate gliders. The steep cliff faces overlooking the sea are the most popular. Every ledge that offers shelter is used. Guillemots prefer the safety of smaller colonies to bring up their young. But they're never completely safe. A skua scans the assembled company. A young guillemot without parental supervision. The skua makes its move. Back from the sea, the parent can't find its young, which causes further complications. The catch is now up for grabs. For guillemots, the bare cliff is enough, but not for puffins. Their rolling gait, carefree clumsiness, and a tragicomic facial expression have made these birds the coast's favourites. In the breeding season, puffins seek out grass-covered cliffs where they dig shallow nests to lay their eggs in. Bumping beaks is a mating ritual. Puffins are astonishingly tolerant of each other because they already arrive at the breeding ground in pairs, so there's little room for jealousy. Only the nesting hollow is private property. Brooding is undertaken by both partners. And those not yet busy looking for food can make the most of the unusually warm evening weather. Picture postcard landscapes, deep blue lakes, and castles shrouded in myth and legend like Eilean Donan. Despite the thin population, There are traces of history wherever you go. Attractive ports like Tobermory or Portree, with their lovingly turned out houses, are also typically Scottish. And once a year, the Scots themselves milk the tartan clichés for all they're worth, and Alistair's always there. The major event of the summer is the Highland Games. Here, the pipes and the kilt, the fundamentals of Scottish identity, cannot be missed, neither visually nor acoustically. The bagpipes were brought to Britain by the Romans, and the Scots never gave them back. No wonder, seeing they were so useful for promoting the fighting spirit. Although even today the games have elements of combat that cannot be overlooked, the precise origin of the competitions are lost in the mists of history. All in all, a great spectacle. The Scots love the substantial. In all the various disciplines, strength plays a decisive role, coupled with a goodly portion of humour. The skirl of the pipes fades into the wide expanse of the Highlands. Here, others are sounding off. The deer have got used to the proximity of horses. But contact with humans is avoided easily, thanks to the ultrafine sense of smell the animals possess. In large parts of Europe, the deer have withdrawn to the seclusion of dense woodlands. In Scotland, due to the lack of trees, they roam the countryside, their original habitat. Each doe that strays too far is brought back by the stag. Purposefully, it heads for the sea with its herd. Red deer in the North Atlantic. An unusual sight. At low tide, the animals get the salt they need from seaweed. Scotland has more deer than almost any other European country. They rule both the coasts and the mountains. Low clouds presage the end of summer. With increasing frequency, gales blow in from the Atlantic. Hurricane-strength gusts churn up the sea. The hastily hung-up washing dries quickly. Unchecked, a storm pushes up into the Highlands, its heavy gusts causing another interesting phenomenon, a waterfall that flows upwards. A golden eagle settles down to a fresh meal. One fawn didn't survive the gale. The Highlands now boast several hundred pairs of these majestic raptors, and the population is stable. Light rain between the showers. A typical Scottish weather forecast. In autumn, light becomes driving. The thin layer of peat can't hold the water for long. With an annual average rainfall of more than 1,500 millimetres, the consequences of deforestation are obvious. There is frequent flooding, not unusual in a country with a shortage of sunshine, but the light makes up for it. Autumn in miniature. As the days grow shorter, the animals make the most of the abundance of food. Then the heather blooms, transforming the Highlands. Alistair checks his small herd, his pride and joy, one more time.
Come on.
He has, of course, brought some treats with him. The fearsome-looking horns are no problem. According to Alistair, nature conservation has had a major effect.
If you can go into the hills, you can see anything you want to see nowadays. There's plenty of deer, foxes, badgers. You can see anything you want if you're knocking about in the Highlands here. It's free range, everything seems to just work away, birds and beasts and everything go together.
The animals sense his love of the country. Later on, Alistair ploughs up a piece of land with his tractor in preparation for next year. Down below, Callum has put out to sea. The work is routine, so his thoughts can wander.
I am very happy that he's keeping the boat going because I really want to see my family be always involved in fishing. And I've got grandchildren, but I'm hoping that they'll be fishermen as well.
Callum has sorted out some lobster pots and brings them back to the harbour. He wants to use the fine autumn day for some repair work. Callum too could never imagine living anywhere else.
As far as I can see, there's no other scenery anywhere else compared with the scenery we have in Skye and the Hebrides. Changes from day to day, when you, different light, you can see different, it's all different scenery.
Birds of passage are a sign of the approaching winter. Those who have fallen for Scotland's rugged charm, however, will never want to move on.